Right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna jump right in. I know we're running a couple of minutes behind schedule this morning, so apologies. We just had a couple of technical things we needed to fix up. Welcome back. Obviously, we're going to get up and running with the second day of this week's Biopharma eMarketing Summit. And same kind of process as yesterday. Obviously, all of the sessions are going to be in this room. We've got breaks and refreshments next door. Lunch today is actually going to be just outside in the Columbus foyer from 12:45 to 2. And we've got 3 sessions now, then a break, then a follow-on additional 3 sessions, lunch, and then finishing up with 2 after lunch. So we'll be done by about, give or take, 2:45, 3 p.m. After the next session, actually, we're going to quickly pull up a QR code. You'll see it on the screen. This is obviously the QR code for, as Rich mentioned yesterday, we've got the final session, which is a feedback discussion panel session. So there's a few questions on there and an opportunity to kind of share your 2 cents on some of the topics and things that have been discussed over the last couple of days. So if you'd like to contribute towards that, that QR code will be up on the screen transferring in between all of the sessions. So I'll kind of prompt and remind when we pull that up. We're going to jump right into the first session this morning. I'd like to introduce Angela Esposito. Angela she's obviously going to be discussing the topic of hype, help, or harm, where AI meets healthcare influence. I know there was a couple of sessions around the influencer marketing topic yesterday on what's happening in healthcare and pharma in particular. So Angela's going to kind of dive in a little bit more into that. She's an expert on that particular area in general. Now, Angela's interesting fun fact is she lived in Scotland for 8 years and attended the school that inspired Hogwarts, if any Harry Potter fans are here. So, that's always a nice thing to know the backstory about. And she returned from Scotland with a husband and dog. So, obviously, sounds like a great 8 years. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Angela as our first speaker this morning.
Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you again. Are you ready to get a little dystopian at 9 a.m.? Because I'm going to freak you out. That's my intent. So yeah, today I'm going to talk about the power of AI influence that is slowly encroaching on the life science industry. That's my theory and my hypothesis, and we're going to dive in to see whether or not this is a good idea or a terrifying idea. So just a quick thing about me. I am a digital marketer by trade for over 12 years. I niched out into the healthcare space around 8 years ago, which I really love. I am mainly on the patient side when it comes to storytelling. I love building influencer marketing campaigns. I did that from the last medtech company that we worked at. And I am now a founder of my own agency due to a redundancy at the start of the year, which I know a lot of us have experienced, but it was the final kick to work on things and projects that I love. So not only am I working with a number of different life science brands on building their influencer programs and digital marketing campaigns, but I also started the Chronic Creator Club to help chronic illness creators beef up their profiles so they can land brand deals, so they can work with brands that they love, because they can't work the typical 9-to-5 job, or they just want a little side hustle, and they deserve it because they have amazing stories to tell. So I'm going to share some of those stories today. And before we do, though, I added these 2 slides last minute because this really inspired me to take the leap to niche out on my own rather than just keep panic applying, which is what I did at the start of the year. I have a colleague in this room as well who had 2 decades on me at the same company, Bridget, who's lovely and has an amazing company. You should talk to her. And we got made redundant on the same day, and it made me kind of force myself to think, what do I do next? Do I go work for a boss that might have a huge ego and not a lot of time for our ideas, or do we figure out what works for us independently to get us excited about what we do? And I was listening to so many podcasts. I can't even tell you which podcast I heard, but they were talking about this book called The Big Leap. So I know a lot of people in this room have experienced redundancy at one point or might even be in between jobs now. I highly recommend it. It is so positive, it might make you puke in a good way. I hope the author doesn't come at me for that. But it really does inspire you to figure out what zone you've been operating in. So there's different zones for, it could be in your personal life, but I love it looking at it from a career perspective. Your incompetence zone is where you know you're bad at it or you really don't like it, or nobody should have entrusted this part of the job to you. Your competence zone is, things that you have to do. Maybe it's a little admin. Maybe it's things that it just comes with the territory, what you're interested in. Your zone of your zone of excellence is probably where you get paid. That's where the bills get paid. You are fantastic at one aspect. Maybe you're a data analyst and you know you're great at what you do, but it's not the thing that really gets you up in the morning, or it's not the conversations you have with your partner that you're super excited about. That's where you fall into your zone of genius. And your zone of genius is the aspect of your life or of your life's work that you love, that you wish you can do only that. Like if you're a professor, you don't want to do research, you want to be teaching and instructing. That might be your zone of genius, right? So how can you lean in and do that more? Here's a small sampling of what that looked like when I was trying to figure out, what should I do next, right? I've been wanting to do these two companies for a long time. How do I map out where I fit? I'm not gonna read all of these, but pronouncing medical terms on the first try is definitely an incompetent zone for me. I don't know how you guys all do it at pharma companies, but that's definitely a weakness. I can make a great PowerPoint presentation. I've made many pitch decks for our bosses, so many slides. It's a competence zone. It's not where I want to be. AI for marketing, we use AI all the time, but I have never yet met a AI expert because there's no such thing yet. We're all still learning there. And then into the excellence zone, maybe I'd like to organize KOL boards for individuals, do more patient research. But what I really love is telling stories from the customers that we're trying to serve or the clinicians that we're trying to contact us and learn more about our products. So I definitely advise you to figure out what zones you're in if you're having that kind of in-between work or you don't like your current job, because it was really helpful for me. Raise your hand if you're worried that your job could be replaced by AI. Okay. I have candies, which I don't know if I can throw them at you. For those that participate, they get candy. So I will maybe just pass them around or I'll start launching them. Now, these are some of the areas where we're most nervous about in the healthcare kind of marketing space and in the regulated industry space of where we're seeing AI kind of encroach into those territories. I don't have to read these all out, but there is one that I added personally in that kind of mixed and shifting area where even patients should be worried and clinicians should be worried that AI will take their job and their brand deals and their contract work because it's now so easy to make things look lifelike. There's all different types of terminology. We had a great talk yesterday where we went through ADHD influencers, and he broke down the number and sizes, and I was 100% agree everything he was saying the whole time, which was nice. You hear content creators, you hear influencers, you hear celebrities. There's all sorts of terminologies for how patients and consumer influencers operate in this space. You hear of key opinion leaders, which are your clinicians typically, or your people that are adjacent that have some type of sphere of influence, for more of an HCP marketing side. You've got your advocates, the people that just love you to love you. Aren't they the best? Like the ones that will give you testimonials without asking, that will write to you and say, I absolutely love this. This product changed my life. This drug was the best thing that's ever happened to me. I can't believe it. And then you go, can we share your story? And can you sign this consent form? And they're like, yeah. We're like, heck yeah, that's free. We want more of that. We want to keep building those programs. And then there's the coming soon chapter. So as of right now, I have not seen, I don't know if any of you have seen any AI influencers currently out there in the healthcare space, but they're very much prevalent and coming out in fashion and other industries. You're starting to see it happen more and more. And just like how social media marketing was so taboo in any life science industry at first, like you were having to really like wine and dine your regulatory team to let you get that passed, this is probably what's coming next. So there's many benefits of why your compliance team might actually approve this, because you're telling them exactly what to say. It's programmed, they're on label, they're doing everything right in terms of what would get passed if it was a brochure or website copy. It's no different, or is it? So we're gonna play a little game where I definitely wanna throw candy at you, but I don't know if I could reach. I am going to play all of these clips with no sound, and I want you to tell me which one is the AI influencer, okay? And we'll see. So we'll watch them first, and then I'll have you raise your hand. I'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, because I think everything needs a game in my life. So here's our first. Bridget's not allowed to answer. Here's our second. Here's our third. And our fourth. All very beautiful ladies, by the way. So all great to represent the brand, right? Raise your hand if you think the first one was the AI influencer. Second one. Ooh. Third one. And fourth one. Okay, so I tricked you. Only the first one was the real influencer. Those other three were all AI. Just to show you. And maybe if you watched it back again, you might think, oh yeah, I could see that. But the girl in the green really threw me off. The TED Talk speaker really threw me off. I'm still seeing like these little folds in her face that looks real, right? I can't believe they're capturing all of these angles in a way to make it look and feel real. So somebody passed. Frank, I'm gonna take my baby. Everybody participated, so please grab a candy. So before we get into the kind of scary parts of the AI influencing, I want to tell you why healthcare influencer marketing totally works. Because consumers will trust influencers over brand messaging. They don't really want to land on your feeds about your drug using stock photography of two people holding hands from behind. We know that's what gets approved, but that's not what gets engagement the same way. 37% of people have made a purchase after an influencer recommendation. I would say so much of my content that I see on my feeds are content creator related content, not necessarily paid, but funny, engaging, things that are gonna make me laugh that feel real and authentic. And 34% of adults across a number of countries rate pharmaceutical companies as trustworthy. So that's not a huge number. And if you're getting brand messages from those pharmaceutical companies, probably not believing everything you say, because you know that big pharma has a little bit of a stigma. But if individuals that are suffering from real world conditions and issues are benefiting from that drug or from that med device, and they're willing to share their story, particularly unpaid, the trust starts to build again. So authenticity and trust is so important when shaping your healthcare influencer campaigns. I do kind of the 80-20 rule, where 20% is, this is the IFU. This is what you need to make sure you say. These are the guardrails. Definitely don't blow dry your device, and definitely don't, stick limes and lemons inside of it, or do anything wacky, even if that works for you. You make sure you set those guardrails and have a good, healthy conversation with them, and then let them be 80% creative. Let them shine. I'm going to show you an example today that you're like, that got passed through your MRL. You're like, yeah, it did. But it wasn't easy. And it was one of the most engaging posts that we have ever had at our company before. So patient-centric storytelling, we had great examples yesterday of customer-centric content and fully engaging with those individuals that are benefiting the most, and tackling problems instead of just talking about the brand. It's really important that it feels like a subtle product placement sell instead of something overly in your face kind of marketing. There's some good sides and bad sides that we'll walk through. These are some of the parts that people become skeptical of. You don't want them to go off book. Again, that comes back to your relationship building. I love my influencers. I send them personal Christmas cards. I am probably too close to them, but by doing that, you're deepening the relationship to ensure that even when they're off contract, they're representing your brand. You're making sure they're not going too far off book, and that they are showing up for you, and they generally give you so much more content when you do that too, because you know you're going to engage with them long term. They give you a lot of freebies, which is nice. So we want to make sure that we're not going to get an audit, of course. We keep them in compliance, and they send all the content ahead of you first to go through your review team before it even gets published. So an influencer campaign might feel like you can do it tomorrow. It takes a little time depending on how your team is, but we can always arm wrestle them into a yes in a nice way to expedite that process. So yeah, there's a number of things. I don't have to go through everything, but we worry about misinformation, accuracy. We saw yesterday that over 50% of people feel like they're being misdiagnosed with ADHD based on the content that they're seeing. We're seeing that across all of these spaces for chronic illness creators too. So we need to be very careful that we're not spreading more harm. So here's Paolo. What are your thoughts on Paolo when you see him? Other than, is that someone that you think that you would say, this is the pillar of who our brand is? This makes sense for our audiences. If you have some doubt, so did my entire team that was helping us oversee the influencer program. We were looking for people in different markets, and Germany is one of our key markets. I found Paolo, who is this rock star, literally in a rock band, metalhead, anime lover, who happens to have an ostomy and a huge ostomy community. He actually had channels dedicated just to ostomy, and then channels dedicated just to his literal rock and roll life. Paolo was on his deathbed. He was in refusal of having an ostomy, despite tons of doctors saying this is the last thing that will keep you alive. He said, I would rather die. I would never find love again. No one would ever find me attractive. I won't be able to play guitar again. I won't be able to be myself if I have this thing attached to me. It was such a stigma at the time, and there wasn't many men talking about it. There still isn't many men talking about it in this community, unfortunately. So once he finally made his big leap and took that chance, and he started sharing his story across different channels and got a lot of traction and got my attention, because I thought, I've never seen anyone remotely like him show up in the ads for not just our company, but our competitors either. He's just way too cool. He probably won't even want to work with us. But he did. And in this first campaign, you'll see we did, for World Ostomy Day, we did say 3 words of how you felt before you were getting your ostomy, or right at the start of your journey, and how you feel today. So I'll let you see that.
Sad, scared, ashamed, happy, empowered, sexy.
He has gone on to have many girlfriends. He has no problem living with an ostomy and living a life that he truly loves. And here's an example of a campaign that he did to help us with one of our products that helps reduce odor, because odor is a huge stigma in the ostomy world.
When you empty your stoma back in the toilet, it can sometimes leave a not so pleasant smell behind.
Hey, is it okay for me to use the toilet real quick?
Like now?
Yeah, I just gotta pee. It's a second.
I wouldn't if I was you. Hey man, it's been a while. How you doing, man? Oh, Steve! No, you were so young, my friend. It shouldn't have ended like this.
Thankfully, we got Convatec diamonds. These bad boys prevent the odors so that hopefully a tragic story like the story of my friend Steve never happen again. So check the link in my bio to leave the toilet smelling fresh. Good luck, my friend.
One of our top videos we ever had at all time. Because it's funny. It took you to a different place. People living with that stigma thought, oh, that is so funny. Tons of comments, and tons of clinicians also responding to it and sharing it with their patients, because they had to stop and stare. It took a while to get that approved, but once it did, we said, there's no harm here. He's having fun. So that 80-20 rule can really be put into practice. I don't recommend it for every single case, but it worked for us because we had to find a way to laugh about it, because it's an extremely debilitating condition to live with, and why not laugh? How many of you have used AI to help with any type of content creation or anything within your marketing within the last 6 months? Like everybody, probably? Okay, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely healthy. And that's the direction that we're going in, right? Within reason. So the case for using AI influencers that we talked a little bit about before, you can tell the slide was made with AI. It's a little like in your face. But it's cost effective and scalable. You can purchase your own AI for your exact user demographic. So if you have a real spread of different users and use cases, you pediatrics and adults, this is an easy way for you to have the exact representation you want in different languages, in different regions, if you've got a global company and campaign that you want to come up with. 24-hour support, right, around the clock. If people are sending them messages and DMing, they can respond with scripts that you provide. It's easier for you to get a pass through MLR if your compliance team has already agreed to this kind of setup. It should avoid issues of real life influencers, which I don't find this as an issue. So if anyone's working with influencers in this space, you need to be patient. You need to be empathetic. Sometimes they're back in the hospital. Sometimes they don't meet deadlines. You've got to give them grace and be there for them, and they will show up for you twofold when they're feeling better. AI influencers, you don't have to worry about that. They've never been sick a day in their lives because they don't even really exist. So it could be a good fit for your business, and it's probably something around the corner. But what are the ethical concerns? How could you possibly feel good knowing that there is an AI influencer saying that she is suffering from colorectal cancer and this is the device that changed her life, or this is the drug that changed her life after going through that? She didn't sit in that waiting room. She didn't experience those conversations where the doctor shut her down and didn't believe her when she was really ill and they needed to explore more. There's going to be a huge issue if you just snap and do the easy, quick, cheap thing, in my opinion. Again, this is my thesis. You might feel like, hey, this will definitely work for you. And the transparency and disclosure, you'll see on TikTok when things are AI generated, there's a little banner at the bottom. But there's ways in which people can still be sneaky, and they'll disclaim it maybe at the last hashtag in that caption, and people might miss that. We're seeing AI-generated videos of cute ducks and dogs all the time, and we don't even care. We're getting desensitized to it. We might become desensitized to this too. It can spread misinformation and bias. Someone was talking about sentiment data yesterday about how a happy face could be sarcastic, and it's not interpreting that. What if, there are conversations being had around the clock with an AI influencer sliding into DMs of people, spreading information that isn't accurate or interpreting their questions as something else and then providing wrong information. And it takes away jobs from the people that I really care about, real patient advocates that want to make this their line of work, So I personally don't think that that's the right move. And and it is a bit of emotional manipulation because it's carved out perfectly for you, and that doesn't sit well with us. So who's responsible when things do go haywire? AI can publish things in seconds if you're letting it run on autopilot. We have human verification that takes days. I should really say months, if we're being real about compliance, making approvals to any of the content that we create. But that gap is where things can get hurt. It's great to move fast, but at what cost? And when you break that down, who is responsible when things do go wrong? Is it the brand? They published it, they owned it. No, we had a contract with this company, and they said that they'll make sure that our influencers will stay completely on your IFUs and to follow all of your guidelines. So maybe it's not the brand. Is it the platform itself for showing this over and over again, maybe to the wrong spaces, maybe getting negative comments? The algorithm is hungry, and you're getting a lot of people saying rude and crude things about these stigmatized communities. That could happen, and the influencer isn't responding to them properly. Is the AI vendor itself, because they said that they were going to do exactly what we wanted at the start? Is it the marketer who said, hey, I got a great idea, and then she gets let go or he gets let go afterwards? The answer is we don't know yet, because this hasn't really come about, but there's a lot of considerations of what can happen when it goes wrong. So I think this is my last slide. Are we saying that we can't use them at all? No. In my opinion, I think it's amazing what you can do from an educational standpoint. So if you are trying to feed the beast like we were talking about yesterday about increasing AI visibility and coming up for search, having your company brand come up there, you need to have a lot of content that's going to help support solving problems rather than just stuffing keywords, right? You can use AI influencers or AI avatars to generate education around your clinical studies. So you can make things more interactive. You can have this person, as long as you disclaim it, on your websites, but keep them off your social. Don't confuse people with what the reality is versus what the educational point could be, because we already have that expectation. Has anyone taken those like really super fun and exciting ethics training corporate videos each year where it's clearly like some AI generated person saying that sexual harassment is wrong, right? We can use that type of format, but in a way that could be fun and entertaining and educational. It could be in Will Ferrell's accent if you want. You can do whatever you want now, but do it safe. Do it with guardrails. Do it in a way where your brand doesn't look like they're trying to take away the humanity in what we're doing. And there's ways in which you can have a mixture of both. So I know they're technically not here yet, but they're coming. Thank you.
Okay, any quick questions for Angela before we hop in? Yes.
Thank you. Very interesting conversation today. And I think I'm going to show my age here, but it seems that there's been a real diversion from traditional marketing, from using a celebrity, for example, to now personal influencers, to now AI influencers, right? So has there been a analysis to show, like in the old days, you got a celebrity, they would talk about how wonderful your product was. Today, everybody thinks they're an influencer because they have a camera. Mm-hmm. And now we're able to create AI versions of that to develop the perfect influencer, basically dictating the perfect narrative. Mm-hmm. So has there been some deep analysis to show the difference and the benefit of doing what we're now talking about in terms of, end result?
They're converting very high. AI influencers in the fashion space are outperforming a lot of the traditional content creators in that space. Mm-hmm. Celebrity endorsement is great if you got lots of money and you're a big brand and there's huge corporate sponsors happening at a festival or whatever it is. That there's still places for that. But what we saw yesterday too, it's those micro, it could be like 1,000 followers. I've had great results with people with 500 followers because all 500 of them were built in that real rare disease space. But what's going to happen for AI influence is they don't just create ads that will appear on your feeds. They create their own channel where they're building up that community. So all of ostomy is somewhere I feel comfortable talking about. So it'll be all awesome. It's following this person that they'll think is real. So they are manufacturing trust and authenticity, which is a little scary, in addition to just being able to create the perfect ads for your brand. And they're converting.
Yeah, so, and then as a follow-on, so what's the criteria for an influencer? Because we all have social media. You go on TikTok, everybody's promoting something. Mm-hmm. So, and that person may have 7 followers, they may have 2 million followers. So as, trying to manage the content, right, to make sure the proper message reaches the right audience, how do you select those people? And what type of vetting process do they go through? Because somebody with a cell phone is immediately an influencer because they're speaking about your product. You can't have everybody do that. How do you control the narrative to ensure that they're staying on point?
You got to nerd out. You got to nerd out hard.
Right?
You got to go through every single video that they had, and you have to be their bestie. You need to have a really healthy relationship with them so that you're in constant communication to say that they represent your brand. Because we've had influencers in the past that got mega political at one point, and then also said bad things about our company because they were no longer in contract with us. These things happen. There are risks, but that happened 1% of the time. For the most part, the vetting process, you can use softwares. I used to use Upfluence, where it automatically can capture people in that community and be able to pull from profile bios and types of content that they work. And then you can even see the insights of when they've done collaborations, how well do those collaborations go? So you can say, oh, wow, they work with this brand, and their conversion rate was super high. So we have back-end analytics. So that's one platform. There's many. A lot of them is a good old-fashioned looking and seeing who's tagged you, who's talked about you, and doing that deep research yourself, because what we want to make sure we're doing, particularly in pharma, is making sure they are actual users of the product too. Whereas med device, you can get them through a different route. You can have them sample the product, have some experience, see if they'd like to switch. After they switch, they can become an influencer. Pharma's a little bit different. It's a little bit trickier. So then you can do more like disease awareness campaigns and work with anybody who isn't even using your product. So long story short, you can't really, there's not one size fits all to sourcing, but it does require a lot of hand holding and a lot of analysis, and it's super fun to nerds like me. Yeah, hi.
Thanks for the content. Interesting perspective when you're looking at like real world and then pharma world, right? When we're talking about influencers and things of that nature. We know our industry is not well trusted from a perception standpoint, right or wrong, whatever goes into that. Does it make sense for our industry to structure a new marketing campaign using AI influencers, right, generated influencers, to speak to a disease state and try to kind of ingratiate themselves to patients who, to your point, are going through something very, really the hardest part of their life, right? Does it come off hollow for our industry to follow a trend in other sectors and put an AI influencer in place as part of our campaigns when we know that we already have, to some extent, a negative perception in terms of what our content is, what our campaigns are, what our self-serving interests are in terms of how we're navigating patient experiences? Is this the one area, or maybe one of many areas, that pharma shouldn't go because it doesn't represent a truism of being able to understand and meet the customer where they're at when we're talking about patient perspectives?
Yeah, I would avoid at all costs. But what I wouldn't avoid is being on the platforms where they are. And that's something where I think pharma struggles. I'm not seeing pharma brands on TikTok when a huge percentage of your audience lives and hangs out there. We're not keeping up with the times. There's ways in which you can show up in those spaces and do it that will help build trust. Because when I look at certain brands, even when I was doing job search, I went, oh, what's it like working there? I want to see what people say. Bad, 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 all these bad comments, because there is a mistrust issue. So by showing up and having people that really are true believers and advocates, people that you don't have to pay, you can just say, thank you for sharing that testimonial with us or sending us that email. Would you make a video about it for us and post it? Great. It's sometimes just asking questions because you've made real impact in their lives. But unless you were creating like an app or whatever that's going to walk them through a certain journey and you're using an AI avatar, not really an influencer, I think it's okay in educational spaces, but I would definitely push back if your bosses go, oh, I saw this girl and she was really great in this fashion ad, we should do this. No, I would feel really concerned about what the backlash would be there.
All right, let's give Angela a round of applause. Thank you very much, Angela. Thank you. Okay, and thank you all for your